and the focus right now on the battleground states.
Indeed. Vice President Harris is spending the day in Michigan, while former President Obama stumps for her in Philadelphia. Mr. Trump, meantime, will hold a rally in Atlanta, while his running mate, J.D. Vance, will be in Wisconsin.
And while the candidates will be in the battleground states, the talk on the campaign trail continues to surround yesterday's Trump rally in Madison Square Garden, and particularly a so-called comedian who spoke before Mr. Trump and made a number of racist comments, including one about Puerto Rico. Today, the Trump campaign and Ms. Harris responded.
It was a comedian who made a joke in poor taste. Obviously, that joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or our campaign.
I will never forget what Donald Trump did and what he did not do when Puerto Rico needed a caring and a competent leader. He abandoned the island, tried to block aid after back-to-back devastating hurricanes, and offered nothing more than paper towels and insults. And now Donald Trump promises to be even more extreme.
And Eyewitness News reporter Joe Torres spoke with Puerto Rican lawmakers and voters. And Joe, is this the kind of comment that could actually cost Mr. Trump some votes?
You know, Sade, it makes you wonder what's the political strategy here, right? It's tough to figure it out. Here we are in the Bronx, home to many of the roughly 1 million Puerto Ricans who live in the 5 boroughs, who live here and vote here as well. Many of them we talked to today, they knew about the comments that were uttered at the rally last night. They also knew that it wasn't the former president who uttered those words, but at the same time they said it'll be the former president who pays the price on Election Day. Approach a Puerto Rican in New York and play the video of last night's incendiary comments about their homeland, and then watch the fire ignite.
What kind of people say that?
Yeah.
They don't know us.
Yeah.
Why they judge like that?
It's really hard to accept that came out of his mouth.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
That was comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who tried to fire up a jam-packed Madison Square Garden crowd of Trump supporters ahead of the former president's speech. The joke bombed, but the explosive fallout reverberated across the country to the 5 million plus stateside Puerto Ricans, many of them registered voters, and more than 3 million American citizens on the island.
Convicted Trump didn't say the words that were said at his rally, but it doesn't matter because it was his rally.
Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey.
This afternoon in East Harlem, a who's who of Puerto Rican federal, state, and city leaders held a news conference to condemn the comments uttered Sunday night, comments made at a rally designed to gain supporters in a tight presidential election, comments that could backfire in a key battleground state.
So, you know, he made a calculated error yesterday. Basically, he said goodbye to PA, to Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, we have 450,000 Puerto Ricans.
This is about human rights, civil rights, and this is about my people, my mother, my grandmother who died after Maria. This is about our people who have suffered for way too long.
He has shown us time and time again that he doesn't value us, that he doesn't value our vote, that he doesn't respect us as people.
Now, you had it at the top of the broadcast there, but it's worth repeating that a spokesperson from the Trump campaign today acknowledged those comments uttered at the rally yesterday were in poor taste and do not reflect the campaign or the feelings of the former president. Coming up in our next report at 6 o'clock, you'll hear from more Puerto Ricans who will explain to you why they don't believe that.
Okay, first things first, you don't fuck with Puerto Ricans. Second things second, you don't fuck with Puerto Ricans about Puerto Rico. Because them Puerto Ricans, they don't play about their flag, and they don't play about their island, okay? You can fuck with them about their hair, you can fuck with them about their Spanish. Don't fuck with them about that island, okay?
1950. It was November 1st, 1950. 2 Puerto Rican nationalists walked to the front of Blair House,
guns blazing to assassinate the President of the United States,
who was sleeping upstairs.
A picket on the iron fence is knocked off. The steps and doorway of Blair House bear bullet holes.
Their cause, the full independence of Puerto Rico from the U.S. And 4 years later, 4 Puerto Rican nationalists start shooting on the House floor shouting, "Viva Puerto Rico Libre," long live a free Puerto Rico, while holding the Puerto Rican flag.
Estimates of the numbers of shots fired range from 15 to 30.
Their goal, to demand people pay attention to Puerto Rico's colonial status under U.S. rule. Their message, Puerto Ricans craved independence and were willing to sacrifice their lives to get it.
I'm not sorry for what I did, sir. I'm not sorry.
But wait, aren't Puerto Ricans U.S. citizens? So how did things become so extreme? Well, the answer isn't so simple.
Classic colony under American domination. Part of the United States Empire.
I will do what is necessary for the liberation of Puerto Rico.
The story of Puerto Rico is one filled with U.S. imperialism, exploitation, and secret surveillance by the FBI. It explains how the U.S. asserts its power with no regard for the locals of a country, and how it will do whatever it takes to stay in control. But it's also a story of unwavering resistance to U.S. colonialism. Take a look at this. It's the New York Puerto Rican Day Parade. What do you notice? Maybe the hundreds of people waving, wearing, and dancing with the Puerto Rican flag. So can you believe that in the 50s, waving that flag meant risking up to 10 years in jail or a massive fine? It was part of U.S. efforts to suppress independence movements on the island. See, this set of islands right here in the Caribbean, with over 3 million people spread across it and almost 6 million Puerto Ricans living in the continental U.S., was once a Spanish colony. Spanish colonialism in Puerto Rico involved the exploitation of the island's indigenous people, the Taíno, and enslaved Africans brought there to mine gold. If you've ever heard a Puerto Rican refer to themselves as Boricua, it stems from the Taíno word Boriquen, which is what the Taíno called Puerto Rico. But after a brutal war over a century ago, Spain gave control of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines to the U.S., expanding the U.S. empire. Unlike the Philippines, Puerto Rico never gained its full independence from Spain or the U.S. Instead, it's one of the oldest remaining colonies in the world. And the US has done a lot of work to try to hide that reality, like calling it a territory, a commonwealth, and even a protectorate, or making Puerto Ricans US citizens, which some historians believe was a disguise to force Puerto Rican men to join the military before World War I, or passing the gag law, which made it a crime to even mention independence or the overthrow of US rule in Puerto Rico.
The purpose was not only to repress what was at that time a really explosive independence movement, but to also, through incarceration and repression, to shore up the vote for this new colonial arrangement.
This colonial arrangement Marisol is talking about is Puerto Rico's current status, a commonwealth or free associated state. Under this arrangement, Puerto Ricans living in the U.S. can vote for the U.S. president, but those on the island can't. To make matters worse, those living on the island have no say in Congress, which has full control over them, and they heavily rely on U.S. imports. The Commonwealth status has ensured that the U.S. looks after its own interests in Puerto Rico, rather than doing what is best for Puerto Ricans.
Because we are a territory, we are treated as a second-class citizens.
For years, the U.S. persecuted, imprisoned, and even killed independence supporters, going as far as carrying out one of the longest targeted surveillance programs on U.S. citizens by the U.S. government. It was secretly carried out by the Police Department of Puerto Rico and the FBI's COINTELPRO. Yep, the same COINTELPRO that infiltrated the Black Panthers and assassinated Fred Hampton. COINTELPRO was a covert counterintelligence program run by the FBI designed to disrupt, misdirect, and otherwise neutralize domestic political organizations, usually through illegal measures. In 1960, the FBI sent this internal memo regarding Puerto Ricans. It outlined goals, disruption, and discord, creating doubts about remaining in the independence movement. To accomplish this, the agency needed information concerning their weaknesses, morals, criminal record, children, family life. The program tracked over 150,000 Puerto Ricans and created extensive files on about 16,000 of them. Those records became known as las carpetas. For my non-Spanish speaking friends, that means the files. I know, super imaginative. In 2000, the FBI declassified these files, which revealed over 60 years of suppression of Puerto Rico's independence movement.
This is by spy from the intelligence unit of the police of Puerto Rico.
That's Emilio Pantojas Garcia. He was 21 when his information was sold to the FBI for $15 by someone he played baseball with. In his case, once his name was given to the police, they went to his neighborhood and interviewed people asking if they knew he supported the independence movement. They also told the neighbors he had applied for a gun permit. It was a lie.
By the time I was investigated, there was already this notion that pro-independence people were violent and that they were, the nationalists, the terrorists. What is interesting, it says that I have no criminal record and that I am not dangerous and that I am not violent, but I was now part of a discredited group of people that they've been branded. They demonized me.
There were many revolutionary groups that fought for Puerto Rican independence. Young people were a big part of the movement. But one of the most prominent groups was the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party. The group sought independence through activism and armed resistance against the U.S. government and the military. The party thought that by continuously resisting, the U.S. government would find it too costly to maintain control of the island. So in the early 1950s, the Nationalist Party launched a series of revolts in Puerto Rico and the United States. There was the Hajuja Uprising, when protesters attacked a local police station in an attempt to ignite a larger rebellion against U.S. rule. The assassination attempt on President Truman occurred 2 days later. In response, the U.S. government unleashed a wave of repression, imprisoning nationalist leaders, members, and sympathizers. Many spent the rest of their lives in prison.
It was crucial that the pro-independence movement was isolated, discredited, and muscled. Independence was not supposed to be the choicest or the best form of decolonization for the colonial world.
Authorities used the argument that the island would face unimaginable poverty without financial support from the U.S. to validate the neo-colonial status.
This is very bad. There's nothing. There's no work at all.
And that brings us to today.
The U.S. territory of Puerto Rico has giant debt troubles.
Announcing it was unable to pay its debts.
Mexico is in the middle of a $70 billion debt crisis.
The national debt in Puerto Rico is over $70 billion.
Economics in Puerto Rico is not for Puerto Ricans, but is for the U.S. and international capital.
A big reason Puerto Rico is in so much debt is that it doesn't have economic sovereignty. Instead, its currency is the US dollar, its businesses are overseen by US federal regulators, and its trade policy is governed by US laws. To put this power into perspective, supplies imported and exported from Puerto Rico have to be put on ships that are US built and owned and crewed by US citizens, making everything in Puerto Rico more expensive than in the States and other Caribbean islands. All of this has contributed to the deep debt, which in turn has given the US government an excuse to further cut out Puerto Ricans from making decisions about their own economy. Instead, the US government asserted its authority by enforcing a US-based finance board known as La Junta. Something that was supposed to help Puerto Rico pay off its debt turned out to be a way for Wall Street and Puerto Rican elites to line their pockets. And although La Junta has reduced the debt, it's been through significant budget cuts to public schools, the healthcare system, and other things that actually benefit those living on the island. On top of that, the island has been hit hard by natural disasters and local government corruption, causing people to leave en masse seeking better opportunities. Today, a majority of Puerto Ricans, about 5.8 million, live in the States. That's almost more than double than on the island.
This feeling that living a good life is increasingly out of reach in Puerto Rico, especially for young people. And that's a form of colonial violence too. That inability to stay in the place where you want to stay, to feel like that place is not for you anymore, is violence. And it's related to this colonial process that's happening in Puerto Rico that values the presence of these rich white investors over the presence of Puerto Ricans, right? And it sees actually the presence of Puerto Ricans as a drain.
Which raises the status debate. Statehood, independence, or some form of its current territorial status, it's not set in stone. Today, independence is only supported by a small number of Puerto Ricans, while more lean towards statehood. The Puerto Rican local government has held many referendums for statehood over the years, with 53% voting yes in 2021. But some critics say these results are flawed, as there's been low voter turnout and controversy around how the choices are phrased for voters. There's also conversations to be had on what Puerto Rican economy completely independent from the US government would look like, and whether that is even possible given the role of Wall Street.
I don't know what time you got there. I was told and made aware that you had no idea about this comedian who made comments.
I have no idea who he is. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he is. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him. But I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in.
Okay, first things first, you don't fuck with Puerto Ricans. Second things second, you don't fuck with Puerto Ricans about Puerto Rico. Because then Puerto Ricans, they don't play about their flag, and they don't play about their island, okay? You can fuck with them about their hair, you can fuck with them about their Spanish. Don't fuck with them about that island.
All right, first and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah, HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from. Shalom to the full like preaching His word and truth and sincerity. And to you ribs, to you sisters out there learning in silence and staying in order, I say to you all, Shalom. Now, I felt like, I had to make a video on this since, I'm from the tribe of Ephraim. And, this whole controversy about this comedian speaking on, the island being trash or whatever. I mean, it's how I feel about it, man. It's expected. We shouldn't act like this man is capable of doing any good, you know what I mean, or saying anything that's righteous, and even if they do righteous, they do it by accident, right? We're not to get involved in this political race, right? We don't care about saving any parts of this world. We don't care about keeping anything sovereign. All we care about is trying to get on those chariots, right? Especially for voting, right? Our people should not be voting or be involved in it as if you're going to make a difference, right? This is not your kingdom. This is not your rest. This place is not for you, nor should you partake in any of these elections. This is Deuteronomy chapter 17 and verse 15. Thou shalt in any wise set him a king over thee, whom the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, thy power, thy God, shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. Right? It's that simple. Right? We have no say, no business with any of this. Right? And we can't expect much from these people, man. We are under the curses. And this man here had no sympathy for children, old people, women, nobody. Well, how much more do you think that he has over a piece of land that, he controls and doesn't live in, nor cares for or exploits? How can you expect any less? I mean, what do you expect? You want this guy to love you? This is the whipping stick that the Lord sent to us with zero heart, zero emotion. Right? Can you imagine putting your hands on an old lady or a child and all the type of circus games they play with our children? Have you heard of alligator bait, where they use children tied to a rope to catch an alligator so they can make purses? That's how much they regard you. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 50. A nation of fierce countenance We shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. This is the type of person. You know, even wicked Jake 2/3 have rules that they don't touch women or children, right? Even the most wicked of our people have some type of moral. These are the people that exploited and continue to till this day. As you saw in the video, they're still a colony. So basically, in nicer way saying they're under oppression. Verse 51, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kin, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. Right? They have implemented so many laws and so many increases in prices, exportation of goods with no kickback, in a sense, where you don't get no benefits from it. So now you're in want of all things, right? You should go for him for want of all things, and food and clothing, water, all these things. These are the curses. This is why we are not to befriend or try to be inclusive or try to get inclusive and try to be equals to this person, man. There's no such thing. We have to wait for Yahweh Shem Yahushua to come and redeem us. That's the only way. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 15, verse 12. But they counted our life as a pastime, and our life here as a market for gain. See, you're just nothing but a way to get $1 out of. And until you stop producing that, you'll be chewed and spit out. Right? You're nothing but a resource. It says for say they, we must be getting every way, though it be by evil means. Right? Taxation without representation. We don't even, in the island, they don't even get to vote. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on, man. And I don't think a lot of the tribes know a lot of the stuff, because even our people don't know a lot of the stuff that are here in Americas. I was born in Guayama, it's in the south, and then I basically was raised out here, and I didn't know any of this stuff until I got older and searched for it. Right, I had to be like looking for this stuff, and it was not really taught to us. I was born in '85. You hear little things, but we don't really know much. It was just wild, man, when I started digging into it and how deep the rabbit hole goes. All right, so this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, and I'm going to start verse 1. It says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as afflicted him and made no account of his labors. Right? That's the mindset that a lot of these Ephraimites in this truth have after having the knowledge, right? And the Lord has dealt with them and gave them the information to go out there and teach and bring out this information. There's a fire and boldness to the tribe of Ephraim, and also the other tribes. I mean, all the other tribes have their own type of, independent movement, things of that nature. I have researched a few of the other tribes as well, and we are all waiting with a fire in our belly, man, for this kingdom to fall. We are all one. We're all tired of it, man. Right? I'm speaking as an Ephraimite, from the eyes of an Ephraimite. Verse 2, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond that they have looked for. right? The elites see all the tribes out there in the corners and they tremble, whereas the politicians are still in the dark, right? Because they're part of a engine, right, with gears, and they must move a certain way. Because if they know the truth, those gears will grind and halt and be feared and cannot be useful, right? But the ones up top, the ones that really control things, know and are troubled and know that they have but a short time. Verse 3, and they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision, in a proverb of reproach, right? Eventually it's going to come a time where they're going to realize what they've done and it'll be too late, right? And also the oppression is going to be reversed at that point. Verse 4, we fools accounted his life madness and his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of God, and his lot is among the saints? Right? That's a scary time for them. Very scary time. To realize you fucked up. Right? When you make a deal and you realize that you signed a contract and this contract is pretty much, when the contract's said and done, you got screwed over, man. It's that type of feeling, man, where you got the short end of the stick, when you've been bamboozled, when you carried your life in pride all your life and realized that it was for nothing. That is a satisfaction that I would love to see the failure in their eyes. This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. That's the goal, right? We're not to save these people. Let the Lord, do the work for us, man, and try to, make your election sure, right? Because that's the only election that we should really be worried about, is the election of the Most High, if we are of the elect. I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakaha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from. And shalom to the hopeful leg preaching his word in truth and sincerity. And to 12 tribes scattered abroad who we know on this side of the world as the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, I say to you all, shalom.